Hello, lords and ladies of the realm. It is I, Emily Sophia, aka M Mighty Sophia, here to attempt, emphasis on the word attempt, to break down for you guys the latest episode of Game of Thrones. We are on season 6, episode 5, The Door. So, spoiler alert, before I dive into the mad thick of things, as I shall be endeavoring to bear all in this review, once again caught in a state of complete and utter emotional and mental and psychological turmoil, and thus I am probably going to miss certain details, certain theories, certain everythings, because the internet, if you didn't hear that sound in the distance, that is the collective internet, the globe, erupting with tonight's revelations, and deservedly so. This stuff is, in every sense of the word, groundbreaking. And people, I review a lot of shows, and I'm very passionate about them, and it's easy to throw around all of these superlatives that I feel like I have used before, but every adjective that I have used to try to encapsulate my feelings, to capture how incredible an episode is, all of that applies, okay? And on a level unlike any other. Hold the door. 3 words for you. I just held up 4 fingers. I meant 3 because these 3 words are the source of global devastation right now. I am speechless. I had to give myself like an hour before I could sit down and even film this review because I was so dumbstruck. I was so just ripped apart at that moment as the past and the present collided in a way that none of us could ever have anticipated, or if you did anticipate it, congratulations, because I was not on that prediction train. No siree, I had no ticket, I had no seat, I was riding another train entirely, and now we're all here together, mourning the loss of one of the show's greatest characters. I mean, there's so many incredible, multifaceted characters to choose from, but of all of them, Hodor occupied an incredibly special place in all of our hearts. And the loss of him in this fashion is, again, something that it hit like a sack of bricks repeatedly. I mean, there's no metaphor that I can use that is going to make this hurt any less or make it hurt any more. It just is this monumental thing. It's catastrophic. It's brilliant. It's crazy. I mean, I was talking in one of, if not several of my previous reviews prior to this one, about how Bran's escapades with the three-eyed ravens in the past, as he is trying to learn everything that he needs to, reach three-eyed raven status and eventually supersede his mentor. All of these goings on, from that initial scene where we learn Hodor's true name and identity to the Tower of Joy, all of this stuff was setting off little signals in my mind. I think I used the word inception to describe this before, because I was like, okay, here we are in the past. And, supposedly the past is already written and the ink is dry. So now, are the revelations like the one that we just got with Hodor? Is this just the first of many to come as a result of things that Bran has done in the past from the present? And like this overlapping timeline stuff, I am in no way, shape, or form going to attempt to get into the logistics of this business, because as soon as I dive into that, I'm not coming up for air. It's like the three-eyed raven said before, you spend too much time going back in these places, and it can consume you. And so now the question is like, what happened with Hodor? Was it intended to happen, or is Bran just beginning to wreak unforetold havoc that is essentially going to bring the world, Westeros, and everything beyond it to a cataclysmic end. Like, is this little Stark boy ushering in Armageddon? Ladies and gents, I don't know. This stuff is driving me insane, but I love to see that Game of Thrones has finally reached this point. You know, everybody talks about the gore and the viscera and the bloodshed and all these aspects that set the show apart from anything else on network or cable television. It's so gasp-inducing. It's so shocking and woo, so controversial. But, you know, finally we are getting into its fantasy roots, the nitty-gritty of the supernatural, and like this is more than just standard medieval history now. We are past the politics of man, and we are now in the politics of the undead, and we even get to learn how the White Walkers and the Whites, the undead, how all of this was begun. And the crazy thing is that it's not just this evil incarnate. The fact of the matter is that the children created the White Walkers to protect themselves from mankind. And then ultimately their creation, their mode of protection in a time of war, comes back to destroy them. But of course, it would appear that it is the result of Bran's mistake. And so, my mind is currently somersaulting down an endless hill into the nether regions, and I want to try to analyze every single piece. And I don't feel like I'm qualified for this business. Like, I feel like I got the wrong degree at college here. I need to go back, take out a few more loans, get myself some knowledge, you know, do a little training with the Three-Eyed Raven to see if there's anything that I could do to prevent these monstrosities. But it's so brilliant. It's so crazy. This is new for everyone. It is a shock that is registering like seismically around the world in everybody's hearts and minds, and it's this insane thing. This is why we love Game of Thrones, why we lose our minds over it, why we sacrifice ourselves time and time again, because this is devastation done proper. This is entertaining as all get out. It's revelatory. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. And once again, I am going to miss Hodor so much. Yes, we didn't even get to see him last season, but losing him like this, I mean, what a way for a character to go out. And just the idea that Hodor's life, like any normal life that he might have achieved, he sacrificed it so early on, and then ultimately all of that was brought full circle and brought to this crazy fruition where he is forced to hold the door, and he is being ripped and torn and clawed at by the undead, to save his friend, who ultimately, it would seem, ushered in his demise. So just the cognitive dissonance here is breathtaking. I love it. I hate it. I cried. So many things right now. So I hope that I'm not too out in the stratosphere for you guys to track with me. But yeah, I'm very lucky that I heard that the episode actually leaked early, so I'm really glad that I happened to miss that bullet, because I can't imagine that scene being any less powerful than it was. I mean, the special effects were great. It's really interesting how they visually, how they show the kinetics of the whites, the undead, how they're all kind of sped up and jerky, and everything is crazy and weird, and getting to see, like, this was legit legitimately a song of ice and fire, you know, as the children are hurling these freaking grenades at the reanimated corpses as their icy overlords pass through the flames untouched, you know, like freaking Khaleesi herself. And like, there's so many parallels, and there's so many, like, the end game is here. The end has never felt more nigh, and that is like every single episode, every single subsequent installment, every chapter of this show is showing us that we are at this edge. You know, the problems of man are slowly beginning to diminish, and yet they're at this very same time heating up in a big way. So it's like, who is going to stand at the world's end? This is the question that I am asking week after week, and the stuff that we really, you know, it's fair to start speculating on at this point. You know, we gotta start drawing the lines in the sand and figuring out who is going to align with whom and to what level of success, and who's gonna have the freaking magic against the Night's King. And there's some trouble afoot. I see a bad moon rising. That's for freaking sure. There was something else that I was going to say. I guess I may as well attempt to get into the rest of the episode if I can manage it. Yeah, what was I going to say? I don't know. All right, I'm gonna try to tread back through the other events of this week. Again, lots of awesome moments for different characters, and hey, we didn't even have a single glimpse of Ramsay Bolton this week, so gotta count our blessings, I suppose, right? And see, the show can be phenomenal without the blood and the gore. It can shock us in totally unprecedented ways. You know, all of that is, I mean, it's great and freaky and crazy, and it drives everybody mad, but I think this is the stuff that really flips your lid. So yeah, let's attempt to think about what the crap else is going on in the world. Doesn't even matter at this point. Oh, good gracious. Oh, actually, I remember what I was going to say. I wanted to say that the piano score, when the children are facing off against the White Walkers at the face of the cave, they're like, the music at that point was so just like I could feel the fear coursing through my veins, and that was some powerful business. Everything that happened in those final 10-15 minutes were just I can't. All right, gonna try. So we get to see Sansa and Peter Baelish reunite with one another, but it's not reunited, and it feels so good. It actually feels pretty terrible and bad and shitty, and Sansa proceeds to, very deservedly so, make Peter feel like an utter ass for leaving her in such rubbish company. And it would seem that, I mean, Peter's got this freaking poker face at any given time, so you can never really tell, like, what he actually feels and thinks. He's always playing it close to the vest, so as she tries to make him guess, you know, the things that Ramsay did to her, and to own up to those things as if Peter himself committed those atrocious acts of rape and abuse. But he seems genuinely naive, which doesn't make a lot of sense for his character. We actually get to see two of the smartest players in Westeros, Peter Baelish and Varys. They both get schooled by ladies in this episode, okay? So there's very little that is keeping Sansa from sicking Brienne of Tarth on this mofo, but she actually does get a very helpful morsel of information regarding her uncle Brendan the Blackfish of Riverrun, who has taken over things at the Tullys. And that information plays into the strategy session that she has later on with Brienne and Davos and Jon and Ed and the Red Priestess and Tormund and, you know, the whole freaking gang. She reveals that the Blackfish is back in the business, and that, you know, as they're trying to figure out who in the North is going to be able to come to their aid, and be instrumental in this impending takeover of Winterfell, or take back, shall we say. But she doesn't reveal where she got her information, what little birdie, you know, whispered that song in her ear. And it would seem that in that way Peter Baelish has rubbed off on her a bit. So got a tenuous relationship going on there. As far as what's going to happen with Peter and the Knights of the Vale and all that good jazz, as far as what's going to happen to them goes, I haven't the slightest clue. Peter is a freaking slippery little fish, and he has a way of, well, he's in the fray now, in some way or another, but in the meantime, Sansa is kind of keeping her tie with him under wraps. Now, we go back to Braavos for some very interesting developments in a girl's training. And so she fights and she fights against, I forget what the other girl's name is, but then again, you know, we're dealing with a lot of namelessness here, with the people serving or attempting to serve the many-faced god. But she's essentially told that she will never be one of them, although she is later given a second chance to prove herself one who is capable of serving the many-faced god. And that comes in the form of a job involving an actress portraying Cersei in this this play that essentially depicts the fall of Ned Stark and the rise of Joffrey and all of that madness and mayhem. It is very much tongue-in-cheek and viciously I was trying to say viciously and maliciously. You're welcome. I feel like Dr. freaking Seuss right now. But anyway, pretty much everybody's getting roasted. Everybody's getting made fun of. And what's crazy about this shindig with Lady Crane and Arya's potential job with which to prove herself is that Cersei is on Arya's list, okay? And a girl may have no desires or no qualms about killing who she is to kill, but at the same time, it's like, I'm seeing some blurred lines here, a little bit of overlap. They're definitely putting her to the test, that's for sure. And we also get a very cool little quote out of this latest development in Arya's training. You know, it's like, do the I forget what the exact line is. I tweeted it out earlier, but it's like pretty much the blameless and the blamed. Death comes for them all. You know, it's that concept that comes through. But yeah, it's really interesting to see Arya attending this play where she's watching these horrible things from her past acted out for jest and for the public's entertainment. It's very bizarre and unnerving stuff, you know, because we're afraid to see Arya potentially fail by reclaiming her identity and taking revenge outright. So she's walking on this dangerous trapeze, but we know that she is very determined. We know that she has tasted defeat and failure before, and she is quite a capable woman when she puts her mind to a task. So is she truly going to commit or not? I guess we're gonna see. Because whereas she is trying to move away from her past, continue to distance herself, and ultimately reach the point where she is one of the faces on the wall of the first faceless men, we see that Sansa and some of her other siblings are engaged in a totally different kind of war. This stuff just blows my mind. But also, we get a good little bit of full frontal male nudity at the very top of the scene, which was quite unexpected, you know, to be looking up yonder at a guy with little wart situations. So, do with that what you shall. Enjoy the nightmares. But anyway, so meanwhile on the Iron Islands, there is a bit of politicking afoot as Euron Greyjoy takes the throne from Yara and Theon, who take the fleet. To which he raises a hopefully brand new fleet of 1,000 ships with which to convey himself to Daenerys Targaryen and join her in taking over everything. This guy is the freaking Donald Trump of the Iron Islands, and they just made him their king. I thought this was fiction. I thought this was fantasy. Is this real life or is this fantasy? I don't know. But yeah, Euron Greyjoy is not exactly the most qualified candidate, and pretty much everything that he's going off of is kind of awful and ridiculous and outlandish, but the people buy it all of a sudden. And I'm very glad that Yara and Theon are teaming up together and that they get the hell out of Dodge. They're gonna figure out business on their own. There's gonna be another war within a war within a war. Inception. But yeah, what are your thoughts about that whole dilemma? Because I mean, we haven't seen a lot on the Iron Islands. It's been quite a long time, and now we're getting our feet wet, and there's some major power plays that are being made, and now a couple of Greyjoys are on the run. And who's gonna come out on top? I have not the slightest, but best of luck to the brother-sister power duo all the way. So we also get to go back briefly as Dany and Daario and Jorah canoodle with one another, and Jorah reveals his condition and prepares to honorably dismiss himself, but no, he is still serving the queen, who refuses to dismiss him and in fact charges him with his own recovery. She tells him to find the cure and then come back and take over the world at her side. If that ain't a profession of love, well, that friend zone is gonna wall the height of the wall in the north, okay? But there seems to be some real chemistry at play here, you know? I was hearing the little bit of Celine Dion in the background at that scene. It's very touching stuff, but, you know, Dany knows where her loyalties lie, and yeah, she's got a bit of a love triangle afoot here, but it's good to know that she still has Jorah's back to the best of her ability, and that they are kind of, you know, there's a bit of redemption finally taking place between those two. It makes me very happy to see. Now, back in Marine, things are getting a little bit tricky, okay? So you got Captain America Civil War, and now you got Tyrion and Varys Civil War, because Tyrion brings in Kinvara, who's the High Priestess of Volantis. She serves the Lord of the Light, and he is hoping that with her aid, you know, that they can continue to uphold this tenuous, fragile peace that they have established, taking the funding away from the Sons of the Harpy, and, you know, the deaths and the craziness. Everything is on the down low. So Tyrion wants to be able to have Kinvara come to their aid in this situation, whereas Varys is very much skeptical of the religiosity that all of this involves. Of course, until she recounts to him in vivid detail a memory long buried in his mind, I'm sure, of the sorcerer who took his manhood and the voice in the flames, and there's a very real power here. So despite all of the distrust that is unfolding towards the priestesses serving the Lord of the Light, we also see that Brienne is very much not a fan of Davos and the Red Priestess Melisandre for similar reasons, but they're making their way in the world, making some claims. So I'll be curious to see how this situation goes. But Tyrion very desperately tries to keep the situation civil, but it's clear that there's a major ideological difference afoot. So yeah, I'm looking at my notes because I'm trying to remember everything that happened. A lot of it pertains to the events involving the loss of the Three-Eyed Raven in Hodor, and Bran's great escape into the wild unknown, and I am about emotionally done for the day. So thank you for listening to and watching this very long review. Also, I did a thank you video for my 10,000 subscriber milestone. You guys are amazing. I gotta jet. I gotta take a nap. It's nighttime. I gotta go to bed at some point. But thank you guys so much. Love you all. Anything I forgot, please bring it up in the comments. I want to chat with you guys there. And as always, I will be back before you know it.